Rebecca Thompson was having one of those Monday mornings that felt like it would never end. As the CEO of Bright Future Technologies, she had 3 board meetings lined up, a mountain of contracts waiting for her signature, and a phone that wouldn't stop ringing. She sat in her glass office on the 20th floor, looking out at the busy city below while sipping her 3rd cup of coffee. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across her mahogany desk. Papers were scattered everywhere, quarterly reports, budget proposals, and employee evaluations that needed her immediate attention. Rebecca had built this company from nothing more than a small idea and a borrowed laptop in her garage 10 years ago. Now it employed over 500 people and had offices in 3 different cities. She was deep in thought, reviewing the latest sales figures, when her assistant knocked on the door. Jennifer had been working with Rebecca for 7 years and rarely looked flustered. But today, something was different. Her usually calm expression showed confusion mixed with concern. "Miss Thompson, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have an unusual situation downstairs," Jennifer said, stepping into the office with a puzzled look on her face. Rebecca looked up from her papers, noticing the strange tone in Jennifer's voice. "What kind of situation? Is everything okay with security?" "Well, that's just it. Security is fine, but there's a little girl in our lobby. She's asking to see you about a job interview." Rebecca blinked twice, certain she had heard wrong. "I'm sorry, did you just say a little girl wants to see me about a job interview?" "Yes, ma'am. She's probably around 8 or 9 years old. She's been sitting in our lobby for about 20 minutes now, very patiently waiting. Our receptionist tried to call her parents, but the girl insists she needs to speak with you directly. She says it's about her mother's job interview." Rebecca set down her coffee cup and leaned back in her leather chair. In all her years running the company, she had dealt with angry customers, demanding investors, and even protesters outside their building. But a child requesting a business meeting? That was definitely a first. Did she say anything else? How did she even get here? Jennifer shook her head slowly. That's what's so strange. She seems to know exactly where she is and why she's here. She asked for you by name and mentioned something about her mother being too sick to come. She has some papers with her too. Rebecca felt her curiosity growing stronger by the minute. She had always prided herself on running a company that cared about people, not just profits. Her own childhood had been difficult, and she remembered what it felt like when adults dismissed children or didn't take them seriously. What does she look like? Does she seem scared or upset? Actually, no. She's remarkably calm for someone her age. She's wearing what looks like her best dress. It's a bit worn but clean and pressed. She has her hair done up nice with a little ribbon. She's just sitting there holding a folder and waiting like any other professional visitor might. Rebecca stood up and walked to her window, looking down at the busy street below. She could see people hurrying to work, cars stuck in traffic, and the usual chaos of a Monday morning in the business district. Somewhere down in her building's lobby sat a little girl with enough courage to walk into a major corporation and ask for a meeting with the CEO. "You know what, Jennifer? I think I need to meet this young lady. My next appointment isn't for another hour, right?" Jennifer checked her tablet quickly. "That's correct. Your meeting with the Johnson Group isn't until 11. Good. Please go downstairs and ask our young visitor if she would like to come up to my office. And Jennifer, could you also ask the cafe on the 2nd floor to send up some hot chocolate and maybe some of those chocolate chip cookies they make? I have a feeling this is going to be an interesting conversation." As Jennifer left to fetch their unexpected guest, Rebecca found herself straightening up her office. She moved some of the scattered papers into neat piles and cleared a comfortable chair near her desk. Something about this situation reminded her of her own daughter, who was now in college but had once shown the same kind of determination when she believed in something strongly. A few minutes later, Jennifer returned with the most serious-looking 9-year-old Rebecca had ever seen. The little girl walked into the office with her back straight and her head held high, carrying a worn manila folder like it contained the most important documents in the world. "Miss Thompson, I'd like you to meet Lucy," Jennifer said gently. "Lucy, this is Ms. Thompson, our company's leader." Lucy stepped forward and extended her small hand for a handshake, just like she had seen adults do on television. "Hello, Ms. Thompson. Thank you for agreeing to see me. I know you must be very busy." Rebecca was struck immediately by the child's polite manner and the serious expression in her dark brown eyes. Lucy's dress was indeed worn but spotlessly clean, and someone had clearly taken great care in preparing her appearance. Her long black hair was braided neatly and tied with a small pink ribbon that matched the faded flowers on her dress. "Hello, Lucy. It's very nice to meet you. Please have a seat." Rebecca gestured to the comfortable chair she had prepared. "Jennifer told me you wanted to discuss something about your mother." Lucy carefully placed her folder on the small table next to her chair and sat down, keeping her feet together and her hands folded in her lap. "Yes, ma'am. My mom was supposed to come here this morning for a job interview, but she got very sick last night. She has a fever and can barely get out of bed." "I see. And you decided to come in her place?" "Yes, ma'am. My mom has been looking for work for a really long time now. She was so excited about this interview. She practiced what she was going to say for weeks. She even bought this dress for me because she said if something ever happened and I needed to represent our family, I should look my best." Rebecca felt something tighten in her chest. The idea that a mother would prepare her young daughter for such a possibility showed both incredible foresight and heartbreaking necessity. "How did you get here, Lucy? Did someone bring you?" "I took the bus. My mom and I practiced the route 3 times last week because she was worried about being late. I know exactly which stops to get on and off." Lucy's voice carried a quiet pride, as if navigating the city bus system was a significant accomplishment for someone her age. Just then, Jennifer returned with a tray containing steaming hot chocolate and a plate of warm cookies. Lucy's eyes widened slightly at the sight, but she waited politely until Rebecca invited her to help herself. "Please have some cookies, Lucy. And the hot chocolate is just for you." "Thank you very much," Lucy said, taking a small sip of the hot chocolate. "This is really good. My mom usually can only afford the powder kind from the store." That simple comment revealed more about Lucy's family situation than any lengthy explanation could have. Rebecca realized she was looking at a child who had grown up faster than she should have. Someone who understood the value of money and the weight of financial struggles. Rebecca watched as Lucy carefully sipped her hot chocolate, trying not to spill any on her dress. The little girl's manners were impeccable, clearly taught by someone who valued respect and proper behavior. After a few moments of comfortable silence, Rebecca leaned forward slightly in her chair. "Lucy, can you tell me a bit more about your mother? What kind of work is she looking for?" Lucy's face brightened immediately, as if this was exactly the question she had been hoping for. She reached for her manila folder and pulled out a single sheet of paper that had been folded and unfolded so many times that the creases were permanent white lines across the surface. "This is my mom's resume," Lucy said, holding it out with both hands like it was made of gold. "She typed it at the library because we don't have a computer at home. It took her 3 trips because she kept finding mistakes and wanted to make it perfect." Rebecca accepted the paper gently, noticing immediately how worn it was around the edges. The resume was typed in simple black font, with a few small formatting inconsistencies that showed it had been created by someone unfamiliar with document design. But what struck her most was how neat and organized it was, despite the obvious challenges its creator had faced. "Your mother's name is Isabella Rodriguez," Rebecca read aloud. "And she's applying for a custodial position." "Yes, ma'am. But she can do lots more than just cleaning. My mom worked at the big hotel downtown for almost 6 years before they had to let people go. She was never late, not even once. She used to tell me that being on time shows respect for other people's schedules." Lucy's voice carried a mix of pride and sadness that made Rebecca's heart ache. Here was a child who clearly adored her mother but was old enough to understand that life had been difficult for their family. "The hotel closed down?" Rebecca asked gently. "Not the whole hotel, but they said they didn't need as many people working there anymore. Mom was one of the last ones they had to let go because her supervisor said she was the best worker they had. But being the best didn't matter when they didn't have enough money to pay everyone." Lucy took another small sip of her hot chocolate, then continued. "That was 6 months ago. Mom has been looking for work every single day since then. She walks all over the city, filling out applications and talking to managers. She says finding a good job is like planting seeds. You have to plant lots of them and take care of them before any will grow." Rebecca found herself genuinely moved by the wisdom this 9-year-old was sharing. It was clear that Isabella Rodriguez had been teaching her daughter valuable life lessons even during their most difficult times. "What made your mother especially interested in working here at our company?" Lucy's eyes lit up again. "She heard from Mrs. Chen at the corner store that your company treats people really well. Mrs. Chen's nephew works in your computer department. And he told her that you give people good benefits and that you care about your workers like their family, not just employees. The fact that their company's reputation in the community had reached this family through such a personal network made Rebecca feel proud of what they had built. But it also made her realize how much pressure Isabella must be feeling to secure this particular job. "Lucy, can you tell me a bit about your family? Do you have any brothers or sisters?" The little girl's expression grew more serious, and she carefully set down her hot chocolate cup. "I have a little brother named Tommy. He's only 4 years old and he's been sick a lot lately. That's part of why Mom really needs this job." "What kind of sick?" Rebecca asked carefully, not wanting to pry but sensing that this was important to understanding the family's situation. "He has something called asthma. It makes it hard for him to breathe sometimes, especially when it gets cold or when there's dust in the air. The doctor gave us medicine that helps, but it costs a lot of money. Without Mom's job at the hotel, we can't always afford to buy it when it runs out." Lucy reached into her folder again and pulled out a small piece of paper that had been folded into quarters. "Mom doesn't know I have this, but I drew a picture of our family to show you." She unfolded the paper to reveal a crayon drawing that was clearly the work of a child, but filled with careful details that spoke volumes. The picture showed 4 stick figures standing in front of a small house. The largest figure, labeled Mom, had long black hair and was wearing what looked like a cleaning uniform. Next to her stood Lucy in a pink dress, then a smaller figure labeled Tommy, who was holding what appeared to be an inhaler, and finally an even smaller figure labeled Baby Rosa. "You have another sibling?" Rebecca asked, noticing the 4th figure. "Rosa is only 8 months old. She's usually happy, but she cries a lot when she's hungry and sometimes we don't have enough formula for her. Mom tries to make it last longer by mixing it with more water, but I don't think Rosa likes it as much that way." The picture also included details that broke Rebecca's heart. The house in the drawing was very small with only a few windows, but Lucy had carefully drawn flowers in front of it and a sun shining overhead, suggesting an optimistic spirit despite their circumstances. "This is a beautiful picture. Lucy, you're quite an artist, thank you. I like drawing because it doesn't cost anything, and it makes Mom smile when she sees my pictures on our refrigerator." Rebecca studied the resume again, noting that Isabella had listed experience not just in housekeeping, but also in inventory management and training new employees. She had clearly been more than just a basic cleaner at the hotel. "Tell me about last night, Lucy. When did you decide to come here today?" Lucy's expression grew thoughtful, as if she was remembering something both important and painful. "Mom started feeling sick yesterday afternoon, but she kept saying she would be fine by morning. She kept practicing what she was going to say in the interview, even though she had a fever. She was so worried about missing this chance." "What kind of things was she practicing?" "She would stand in front of our bathroom mirror and talk to herself like you were there. She practiced saying how much she loves making places clean and organized, and how she always tries to do more than what's expected. She said she wanted to tell you that she understands that when people trust you to take care of their workplace, you're taking care of something that's important to them." The maturity and thoughtfulness behind these words impressed Rebecca. Isabella Rodriguez was clearly someone who understood the deeper meaning of work and took pride in doing things well. But then this morning, Mom couldn't even sit up without feeling dizzy. She started crying because she was so disappointed. She said this might have been our family's chance to get back on our feet, and she was letting us down. Lucy's voice wavered slightly for the first time during their conversation. "I told her she wasn't letting anyone down, that she couldn't help being sick. But I could see how sad she was. That's when I got the idea to come here myself." "What made you think that would work?" "I remembered what Mom always tells me about speaking up for what's right. She says that sometimes adults get so busy that they forget to listen to what's really important. I thought maybe if you could hear about Mom from someone who knows her best, you might understand why she would be perfect for this job." Rebecca realized she was witnessing something extraordinary. This 9-year-old had not only understood her family's desperate situation, but had also developed a plan to help that showed remarkable courage and maturity. Rebecca looked at the earnest little face across from her and made a decision that would have surprised her entire management team. Instead of politely sending Lucy home with a promise to reschedule her mother's interview, she decided to treat this moment as seriously as any business meeting she had ever conducted. "Lucy, I want you to know that I'm very impressed by your courage in coming here today. Not many adults would have the bravery to do what you've done. Rebecca leaned back in her chair, her voice warm but professional. Since you know your mother better than anyone else, would you be willing to help me understand what kind of employee she would be? Lucy's eyes widened with surprise and then filled with determination. She sat up even straighter in her chair, as if she suddenly understood the importance of this moment. Yes, ma'am. I can tell you everything about my mom's work. Good. Let's start with something simple. What time does your mother usually wake up? Every day at 5 in the morning, even on weekends, Lucy answered without hesitation. She says the early morning is the best time to think clearly and plan the day. She makes coffee, checks on all of us kids, and then she does exercises in our living room before we wake up. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. Exercises? Mom found some workout videos at the library that she borrowed on DVD. She says that staying strong and healthy is part of being a good worker. She told me that if your body feels good, your mind works better, and if your mind works better, you can do your job better. The wisdom in that simple statement impressed Rebecca. Here was a woman who understood the connection between personal wellness and professional performance, even while struggling financially. Tell me about how your mother approaches cleaning. What have you observed about her methods? Lucy's face lit up with enthusiasm as if this was her favorite subject. Oh, Mom has a whole system. She always says that cleaning isn't just about making things look nice. It's about creating a space where people can do their best work. She paused to take a small bite of cookie, then continued. When we lived in our old apartment, Mom would clean every room in a specific order. She starts from the top and works down, so dust doesn't fall on things she's already cleaned. And she always cleans the windows last because she says natural light makes everything look better. Rebecca found herself genuinely interested in these details. She had never thought about the strategy behind effective cleaning, but Lucy was describing someone who approached her work with real thought and care. Has your mother ever made mistakes at work? And if so, how did she handle them? Lucy considered this question carefully, as if she wanted to give an honest but fair answer. One time at the hotel, she accidentally used the wrong cleaning product on some expensive marble in the lobby. Instead of hoping nobody would notice, she went straight to her supervisor and told him what happened. What was the result? At first, her boss was upset because the marble got a little cloudy. But then he said he was glad Mom told the truth right away, because if she had waited, the damage might have gotten worse. They were able to fix it, and after that, her supervisor trusted her even more because he knew she would always be honest. Rebecca made a mental note about Isabella's integrity. In her experience, employees who took responsibility for their mistakes were far more valuable than those who tried to hide them. Lucy, what does your mother think makes a workplace successful? This question seemed to touch on something Lucy had heard discussed many times at home. Mom always says that a workplace is like a big family. Everyone has different jobs, but they're all trying to help the same goal happen. She says her job isn't just to clean, it's to make sure everyone else can focus on their important work without worrying about their environment. That's a very mature way to think about it. Mom told me that when she worked at the hotel, she learned all the employees' names and what they liked. She knew that the night manager preferred his office to be cleaned early in the evening, and that the lady who worked at the front desk was allergic to certain air fresheners. Mom says paying attention to people's needs isn't extra work. It's just being considerate. Rebecca was beginning to understand that Isabella Rodriguez wasn't just looking for any job. She was someone who understood the value of being part of a team. This level of thoughtfulness and attention to detail was exactly what their company needed. Has your mother ever had to deal with difficult situations at work? Lucy nodded seriously. One time, there was a man staying at the hotel who was very rude to all the cleaning staff. He would leave his room extra messy on purpose and say mean things when they tried to clean. How did your mother handle that? She asked her supervisor if she could be the only one to clean his room. She said that if someone was going to be treated badly, it should be her instead of the younger workers who might get their feelings hurt more easily. Rebecca felt a chill of respect. This woman had actively chosen to protect her colleagues from an unpleasant situation. But here's the interesting part, Lucy continued. After a few days of Mom being extra polite and doing really good work even though he was mean, the man started being nicer. By the end of his stay, he apologized to Mom and left a thank you note. What do you think made the difference? Lucy thought for a moment, her young face serious with concentration. Mom says that sometimes when people are mean, it's because they're having problems in their own life. She doesn't take it personally. She just keeps doing her best work and treating everyone with respect, no matter how they treat her. Rebecca realized she was learning more about Isabella's character in this conversation than she would have discovered in 3 traditional interviews. Lucy's observations were revealing someone with emotional intelligence, leadership qualities, and a work ethic that went far beyond job descriptions. Tell me about your mother's attention to detail. Can you give me a specific example? Oh yes. Lucy's enthusiasm returned. Mom has this thing she does with her work supplies. Every morning before she starts cleaning, she checks all her equipment to make sure everything is working properly. She cleans her cleaning tools before she uses them, because she says you can't make something clean with dirty equipment. She paused to sip her hot chocolate, then added, and she always carries a little notebook where she writes down anything that needs to be fixed or replaced. She told me that being organized in small things helps you be organized in big things too. Rebecca was struck by the systematic approach Lucy was describing. This wasn't someone who just went through the motions. This was someone who had developed professional systems and standards. Lucy, what would you say is your mother's greatest strength as a worker? The little girl didn't hesitate for even a second. She cares about other people's success more than her own. When the hotel was having money problems, Mom worked extra hours without asking for more pay because she wanted to help keep the business running. She said that everyone's jobs depended on the hotel doing well, so helping the hotel was helping her friends too. And what about areas where she might need to improve or learn new things? Lucy's honesty continued to impress Rebecca. Mom sometimes works too hard and forgets to take breaks, and she's still learning about computers. She can do basic things, but she wants to learn more so she can be more helpful. The fact that Isabella recognized her own areas for growth and actively wanted to develop new skills spoke volumes about her attitude toward professional development. One last question, Lucy. If I were to hire your mother, what do you think she would want to accomplish here? Lucy's answer came from the heart. She would want to make this place feel like home for everyone who works here. She would want people to walk into their offices every morning and feel happy about being here, and she would want to learn everything she could so that maybe someday she could help train other people and teach them how to take pride in their work too. After, Lucy left with promises that Rebecca would call her mother that afternoon. Rebecca sat alone in her office staring at the worn resume and the colorful crayon drawing. The building hummed with its usual Monday activity, phones ringing, meetings starting, keyboards clicking. But her mind was completely focused on the conversation she had just experienced. She had been running this company for 10 years, had interviewed hundreds of people, and had developed what she thought was a pretty good sense for evaluating potential employees. But nothing in her professional experience had prepared her for learning about someone through the eyes of their 9-year-old daughter. Rebecca picked up Isabella's resume again, reading it more carefully this time. The basic facts were all there: 6 years of experience, reliable attendance, positive supervisor references. But between the lines, she could now see so much more. This wasn't just a list of job duties. It was the work history of someone who understood that every job, no matter how small it might seem to others, was an opportunity to make a positive difference. She walked to her window and looked down at the busy street, thinking about Lucy's words. The little girl had painted a picture of a mother who worked not just for a paycheck, but with a sense of purpose and pride that was becoming increasingly rare in the workforce. Here was someone who saw cleaning not as a menial task, but as creating an environment where others could succeed. But what struck Rebecca most was the story of Isabella protecting her younger colleagues from the difficult hotel guest. That single decision revealed leadership qualities that had nothing to do with titles or hierarchy. It showed someone who naturally stepped up to shield others from hardship, even when it meant taking on extra burden herself. Rebecca reached for her phone, then stopped. She realized that simply offering Isabella the custodial position wouldn't be enough. Yes, the family clearly needed the income and benefits, but Rebecca had a different vision forming in her mind. She had learned something important during her conversation with Lucy, and it had nothing to do with cleaning, techniques, or work schedules. She had learned that Isabella Rodriguez understood something that many managers and executives never figured out, that taking care of people and taking care of business weren't separate goals. They were the same goal approached from different angles. Rebecca opened her laptop and started typing notes. Over the past year, She had been thinking about ways to improve their workplace culture and strengthen their connection to the local community. The company was successful financially, but she wanted it to be more than just profitable. She wanted it to be a place that made a real difference in people's lives. What if they created a position that combined facilities management with community outreach? Someone who could not only maintain their physical workspace, but also help build bridges between the company and the neighborhood around them. Someone who understood both the importance of a clean, organized work environment and the value of treating every person with dignity and respect. The more Rebecca thought about it, the more excited she became. Isabella's background wasn't just in cleaning. According to her resume, she had experience training new employees and managing inventory. More importantly, based on Lucy's descriptions, she had the interpersonal skills and emotional intelligence that this kind of role would require. Rebecca picked up her phone and dialed the number on Isabella's resume. It rang 4 times before a weak voice answered. "Hello? Hi, may I speak with Isabella Rodriguez, please?" "This is Isabella." The voice sounded tired and congested, but there was an immediate note of concern. "Is everything okay? Is this about Lucy? I've been so worried since I realized she wasn't here." "Isabella, this is Rebecca Thompson. I'm the CEO of Bright Future Technologies. Lucy is perfectly fine. In fact, she just left my office about an hour ago." There was a long pause, and Rebecca could hear Isabella's sharp intake of breath. "Oh no. Ms. Thompson, I am so sorry." I don't know what Lucy was thinking. "She shouldn't have bothered you." "I know she was just trying to help, but I never asked her to do anything like this." "Isabella, please don't apologize. Lucy didn't bother me at all. In fact, I'd like to meet with you as soon as you're feeling well enough. Are you available to come in tomorrow morning?" You still want to interview me? Even after my daughter showed up at your office uninvited?" Rebecca smiled, thinking about how to explain what had just happened. "Isabella, your daughter didn't hurt your chances of getting this job. If anything, she helped me understand exactly the kind of person you are. Can we schedule a meeting for tomorrow at 10? "Yes, absolutely. I'll be there. Thank you so much for understanding." The next morning, Isabella Rodriguez walked into Rebecca's office looking nervous but determined. She was a small woman in her early 30s, wearing the same careful attention to detail that Lucy had displayed. Her clothes were simple but immaculately clean and pressed. Her hair was neatly styled, and she carried herself with quiet dignity despite her obvious anxiety. "Ms. Thompson, I want to start by thanking you for seeing me, and by apologizing again for Lucy's visit yesterday. She's always been protective of our family, but I never expected her to do something like that." Rebecca gestured for Isabella to sit in the same chair Lucy had occupied the day before. "Isabella, I want you to know that Lucy's visit was one of the most impressive demonstrations of character I've ever witnessed. Not just her character, but yours. The way she spoke about you and your work ethic told me more about who you are than any traditional interview could have." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "She's a special little girl. Sometimes I worry that she's had to grow up too fast because of our situation. Can you tell me about your current situation? I know you've been out of work for 6 months." Isabella took a deep breath and began to speak with the same honesty and directness that Lucy had shown. She explained about the hotel closure, about her struggles to find new employment, about the mounting bills and the constant worry about providing for her children. But she didn't speak with self-pity. Instead, she talked about these challenges as obstacles she was determined to overcome. "I know the position you advertised is for custodial work, and I want you to know that I would be grateful for any opportunity to work here. I've heard wonderful things about your company, and I believe in taking pride in whatever work I'm given." Rebecca leaned forward slightly. "Isabella, I want to discuss something a bit different with you. Based on what I learned from Lucy, and what I'm hearing from you now, I think you might be interested in a position we're creating." Isabella looked confused but hopeful. "A position you're creating? We've been thinking about expanding our community involvement and improving our workplace culture. What I have in mind is a role that would combine facilities coordination with community outreach. You would oversee our cleaning and maintenance staff, but you would also help us develop programs that benefit both our employees and our neighbors." Isabella's eyes widened. "I'm not sure I understand. That sounds like a management position." "It is a management position. You would have your own office, a benefits package that includes health insurance for your entire family, and opportunities for professional development. Most importantly, you would have the chance to use your skills in working with people to help us become the kind of company that makes a real difference in this community. For a moment, Isabella couldn't speak. She sat in stunned silence as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Ms. Thompson, I don't have a college degree. I don't have management experience. Why would you offer me something like this?" Rebecca smiled, remembering Lucy's earnest face as she described her mother's work philosophy. "Isabella, yesterday your daughter taught me that the most important qualifications for this job aren't on any resume. You've already demonstrated leadership, integrity, and a genuine care for other people's success. Those are the qualities we need most." Isabella wiped away tears that had started flowing despite her efforts to maintain composure. "I don't know what to say. This is more than I ever hoped for. There's one condition," Rebecca added gently. "I want you to bring Lucy by the office sometime soon. I think she'd like to see where her mother works. And I'd like to thank her personally for helping me recognize what an exceptional person you are." As Isabella signed her employment contract an hour later, she realized that her daughter's brave decision had changed not just their immediate circumstances, but the entire trajectory of their family's future. 6 months after Isabella started her new position as Community Relations and Facilities Coordinator, the 20th floor of Bright Future Technologies had been transformed. The changes weren't just physical, though the offices certainly looked better than they ever had. The real transformation was in the atmosphere. There was an energy and warmth that hadn't existed before. Isabella had taken to her new role with the same dedication Lucy had described, but with an enthusiasm that surprised even Rebecca. During her first week, she had spent time with every single employee, learning not just their names but understanding their daily routines, their preferences, and their needs. She discovered that the accounting team worked late every month during closing, so she arranged for fresh coffee and healthy snacks to be available during those long evenings. She learned that several employees had food allergies, so she worked with the cafeteria to ensure safe options were always available. But Isabella's impact went far beyond the office building. Within 3 months, she had established partnerships with local organizations that benefited both the company and the community. She convinced Rebecca to start a mentorship program where Bright Future employees volunteered to help local high school students learn job skills. She organized quarterly community cleanup, days where company employees worked alongside neighborhood residents to improve local parks and public spaces. The Employee Assistance Program Isabella developed became a model that other companies started copying. She had recognized that many workers faced the same kinds of challenges her family had experienced: childcare difficulties, transportation problems, unexpected medical expenses. Instead of seeing these as personal issues that shouldn't affect the workplace, Isabella understood they were human challenges that affected everyone's ability to do their best work. Lucy had become a regular visitor to the office, usually arriving after school on Fridays to wait for her mother to finish work. The employees had grown to love seeing her small figure walking through the hallways, always carrying her backpack full of homework and art supplies. She had claimed a corner table in the break room as her unofficial study space, and it wasn't unusual to find various employees helping her with math problems or admiring her latest drawings. "Miss Lucy is here" had become a familiar announcement that always brought smiles to people's faces. She had an uncanny ability to remember everyone's names and something personal about their lives. When the IT manager's father was in the hospital, Lucy made him a get-well card. When the receptionist got engaged, Lucy drew a picture of a wedding dress for her. These small gestures, clearly learned from watching her mother's approach to caring for others, had made Lucy an honorary member of the Bright Future family. Tommy's health had improved dramatically once the family had access to good health insurance. With his asthma properly managed and regular checkups with specialists, he was now able to play like other 4-year-olds, without the constant worry about breathing problems. Isabella often spoke with quiet amazement about watching her son run around the playground without fear, something that had seemed impossible just a year earlier. Baby Rosa, now walking and starting to say her first words, had become the unofficial mascot of the company daycare center that Isabella had helped establish. Working with Rebecca and the human resources team, they had converted unused space on the second floor into a beautiful childcare facility staffed by licensed professionals. This allowed several employees who had been struggling with childcare costs to bring their children to work, reducing stress and improving job satisfaction across the company. The daycare had a waiting list of employees who wanted to enroll their children, and the program had attracted positive attention from local newspapers and business magazines. Other companies in the area were now reaching out to Bright Future Technologies, asking for advice on implementing similar programs. Isabella's office had become an unofficial counseling center, where employees felt comfortable discussing both work-related and personal challenges. She had a gift for listening without judgment and helping people find practical solutions to their problems. When a young employee was struggling to care for her elderly grandmother while working full-time, Isabella helped arrange flexible scheduling and connected her with local senior care resources. When another worker was having trouble making rent after a medical emergency, Isabella worked with the company's Emergency Assistance Fund to provide temporary help. Rebecca often marveled at how naturally Isabella had grown into her leadership role. She had enrolled in evening business classes at the community college, determined to match her natural skills with formal education. Watching Isabella balance work, family, and school with the same systematic approach Lucy had described was inspiring to everyone around her. The company's reputation in the community had grown significantly since Isabella's arrival. Local business leaders often commented on Bright Future's transformation from just another successful tech company to an organization that was actively making their neighborhood a better place. The mentorship program had expanded to include partnerships with 3 different schools, and the community cleanup days had grown from a few dozen volunteers to events that drew hundreds of participants. One particularly meaningful moment came during the company's annual Employee Appreciation Dinner. Rebecca was giving her usual speech about the year's accomplishments when she noticed Isabella sitting at a table with Lucy, Tommy, and Rosa. Lucy was carefully helping Tommy cut his food while Rosa sat contentedly in Isabella's lap, both children dressed in their nicest clothes for the special occasion. "I want to share a story with all of you," Rebecca said, deviating from her prepared remarks. "A year ago, a 9-year-old girl walked into my office and taught me something that no business school or management book ever could. She taught me that the best way to evaluate someone's character isn't through their resume or their interview answers. It's through the eyes of someone who loves them enough to fight for them." The room had grown completely quiet as Rebecca continued. "That little girl's courage didn't just help her family, it helped all of us remember what really matters in business. It's not just about profits or productivity. It's about creating a place where people can thrive, where families can build better futures, and where we can all be part of something larger than ourselves." She gestured toward Isabella's table. "Isabella Rodriguez has shown us that when you give someone an opportunity to succeed, they don't just change their own lives, they change the lives of everyone around them. The program she has developed, the culture she has helped create, and the connections she has built in our community have made Bright Future Technologies a better company and all of us better people." The standing ovation that followed lasted several minutes, with employees from every department showing their appreciation not just for Isabella's work, but for the positive changes that had rippled throughout the entire organization. Later that evening, as families were gathering their coats and saying goodbye, Lucy approached Rebecca with something in her hands. "Ms. Thompson, I made something for you," she said, holding out a carefully wrapped package. Inside was a new drawing, much more sophisticated than the crayon family picture from a year earlier. This one showed the Bright Future Technologies building, but it was filled with details that could only come from someone who had spent many afternoons there. Lucy had drawn people working together, children playing in the daycare, employees helping each other, and families like hers finding hope and opportunity. At the bottom of the picture, in Lucy's careful handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for listening to a little girl who had something important to say." Rebecca realized that this drawing would hang in her office forever, not just as a reminder of an extraordinary day, but as a symbol of what could happen when businesses remembered their most important purpose, helping people build better lives. As she watched the Rodriguez family walk toward the elevator, with Isabella carrying sleeping Rosa while Lucy and Tommy excitedly discussed the evening's festivities, Rebecca understood that the best business decisions weren't always the ones that looked good on spreadsheets. Sometimes they were the ones that honored the courage of a 9-year-old girl who believed her mother deserved a chance to show the world how extraordinary she could The story of Lucy's visit had become legendary within the company, shared with new employees as an example of the values that made Bright Future Technologies special. But for Rebecca, it would always be more than just a good story. It was a reminder that the most profound changes often began with the smallest acts of courage, and that success was measured not just by what you achieved, but by how many people you lifted up along the way.